Hey, good evening, everyone. John Arnold from Protect and Serve. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is episode 21 of Protect and Serve. We want to thank all of our viewers who have been so faithful and so kind, that have been coming on, joining us, and participating in the conversation of, the various conversations that we've had on Protect and Serve about making our community better and safer for us, for our children, for our elders, for everybody, even visitors that come in from out of town. We want to have the best community possible. So listen, your input is very important in these conversations. And I just want to personally thank you for coming on every Wednesday. I don't take it lightly that you are tuning in. I know you have other things to do. You could be other places. So I do appreciate you coming in, and so do our guests, because we all have something to say. I feel we have something of value to say that can make a difference and an impact. We're all trying to do things better. We're all trying to live in an environment that is conducive to safe living, a better quality of life. And in spite of everything that's going on, how do we do this with police who are sworn to protect and serve us? But yet we find that a lot of times we feel that there's a severe injustice committed against us. So these type of conversations are necessary, especially at this time. This is an opportunity for us to come together to make change. We are talking about police reform, defunding the police, changing it. And listen, this is what we have to do. We have to make more better informed choices. All right. If we're going to make a decision, we're going to go in a certain direction. We have to make sure that we come to the table with as much knowledge as possible, because in order to affect change, you have to understand what you're up against. And in law enforcement, this law enforcement is as old as the country itself. And a lot of it, as we know, has been steeped in systemic racism. There's some things that need to be changed. Listen, I like MeTV. It's an older channel for those of us who came up in the 60s. And I watch Adam 12. And would you believe that the same issues that were going on back then are still going on now? I mean, they cover between there and Dragnet, racial disparity, and with the police. It's so many things that are going on today that have been going on for years. But now is the opportunity. 2020 is a year of opportunity and change, and we need to take advantage of that. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to set this thing off on the right track going into 2021. So we thank you for joining us tonight. We have a very important conversation going on, partnering with the police in your community. Listen, we don't do it enough. We just think that cops are supposed to come in, ride around, and arrest people. Tonight, we are going to disprove that. That is something that we are going to throw out in the trash, and we're going to bring new stuff in tonight. So I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to waste any more time. Listen, I just wanted to thank you personally for coming and joining us tonight. But I want to bring in my guest, the guest expert. Come on, Detective Stephanie Treadwell, retired from Newark PD, and Detective Anthony Cox, retired from the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Hello, people. How are you tonight?
We're good.
Doing fine. Welcome, guests.
Listen, I'm so glad that you're here. Listen, man, we got an important subject tonight, because I think out of all of the subjects that we talked about, I think this is important because moving forward, we have to understand that this is a great opportunity for change. A lot of the things that you and we discussed as, detectives coming up, and we said, man, why don't they do things this way? Our superiors, why don't leadership do it this way? Now we can pass that on, and we can, give the people, the citizens, enough information, arm them with enough information that they can make it happen. A lot of times it's not for us to bring about the change. It wasn't for us to bring about the change. We were little peons, but we were so far ahead. And I think the reason is because we had a strong commitment to the community. So tonight, we're going to get into some things, partnering with the community, with the police. One of the things New Jersey Urban Crime Foundation is big on, the partnership, the vision of it is partnering with community, cops, and clergy. Not necessarily in that order, but making sure that that's something that we do, because police can't do it by themselves. They need the community in order to make it happen. So tonight we're going to get into some things, into some conversation. Listen, those who are viewing, Man, feel free to jump in at any time. We just want to make sure that you walk away with this conversation because it's important that you walk away with what we're bringing to the table with some facts. Okay, so when we talk about community partnering, give me some thoughts on what you're thinking about, or what your thoughts are.
Community partnering, like either in like the precincts or outside.
Anyway. Yeah, anyway, it doesn't have to be specific. I mean, the whole department, because one precinct in a major department isn't going to really do anything. It has to be things that we bring to top leadership to make sure that it trickles down. That's how it works. Folks don't know there's a chain of command in the police departments that we have to abide by as officers. And what I used to find out was line officers, when we were line officers, we used to be talking about things and discussing things, but it was like talking to the wall, because exactly. As long as it was amongst us, it wasn't going nowhere. We could talk till we're blue in the face. And I always, when I became a deputy director and I became a leader, I said, listen, you know what? You know who knows best what we need as a department, what leadership needs to do? The line officers, the people out front, the officer that drives around in the car, the officer that responds to the scenes, that's
out there on the street. It's basically been about strengthening and securing our neighborhoods. That's what it's about.
Yes.
I came on back in, not to tell my age, but 1986 under Safe Neighborhood Unit in Nissan. And we got out there once we, went through the academy. They told us you're going to be on the street.
Right.
Good. And we walked the streets for about a year and a half. Different, shifts, but you got to know your neighborhood. You got to know who was living here, who, once you walk your whole neighborhood, and you learn who your citizens were. You befriend, majority of them, the store owners, and you know your neighborhood, basically. Yeah. That was a key foundation. You knew your neighborhood.
That was back in the day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Right now, we become so disconnected from the people that we service. It's awful. And
you have to be connected.
Well, I was out there. I knew more criminals than I knew residents.
You have to be connected to do an effective job.
Yeah.
And that's the key right now. You have to know your neighborhood.
But Steppy said something that's key. Say it again, Steph, what you said about who you knew. You knew more.
Oh, I knew more the criminals than I knew the people that we supposed to be protecting and serving. That's a problem.
That's a problem to me because when we came on the job, like most cops, we come on there, man, we're going to change the world, right?
Yeah.
Change the world. We're going to stop crime, man. We're going to put on our Batman cape or Superman cape, whoever you subscribe to, or Wonder Woman, and we're going to change the world. But listen, the problem is that we got tied up responding to car accidents, burglary reports, all types of crimes in the community. And the reason we didn't really connect with the community was because the leadership made us focus on man, you getting attacked. Let's call a cop car for you for an assault. Black cat wanted for assault. But it was things like that kept us from engaging the community. I mean, listen, CompStat is good. All right, it helps us steer the ship, so to say, because it tells us where our crime is and what we need to do. But the problem is that when you become focused on numbers and stats, like a lot of your police leaders are, I mean, you lose that touch. You become mechanical. I'm gonna get in my car. I got to write 50 tickets. I got to respond to this many jobs. I got to catch up on this, because they want numbers.
Fill out your log sheet and but when you do take the time to find out who's in your neighborhood, that is the bridge, or that's that gap that closes between the police and your community.
Right.
You get to find out who's living here. You know their routine just like they know yours.
Right.
It came on at say 12 midnight. Actually, back then we worked 1:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Steph said, I knew some of the criminals that were out there. I knew who doing burglaries, and that was a help because people talk.
Right.
It wasn't, nothing was called snitching back then, but I mean, whatever you want to call it, you call it. But Even some of the criminals looked out for their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
You know, they walk down the street, maybe carrying a TV and be like, hey,
there was a
go look over there.
There was a code of honor.
Yeah, it was a code of honor. You know, you lock me up, but tomorrow night, guess what's going to happen? I mean, they talk. People talk.
Yeah.
People like to talk. And you have to have that communication and that, you know, friendship or whatever you want to call it with everyone in your neighborhood, not just the police or, you know, a church member or a city. You have to have a friendship or some type of rapport with everyone.
Right.
Even you know, even if you were luckily enough to live in that community.
I lived in where I worked, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know,
where I was raised.
Yeah, you know, it lets them know you outside of your job with your uniform off.
That helps.
That you just like a regular person like that, and that you show value to them. Like, I could live right next door to you. I mean, I'm not looking down on you. You know, you live in the hood. I may live in the hood. I ain't trying to live in no hood though, but I'm just saying, you know, some of us did. We had to start out like that.
They just say you keep the neighbor in the hood.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was a term I learned from Detective Treadwell.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, and because, you know, Steffi was in the largest police department in the state, Newark. I mean, Newark was the biggest city, the oldest city in Essex County. You know, a lot of people don't know, but all these other towns branched off of Newark. I didn't even know that West Orange was a part of Newark at one time.
You said it was all one on. Well,
yeah, man, that's how far Newark, that's how vast Newark was, and policing Newark was a task. But the years of experience that you learned things from Newark, you know, but then you had new forms of policing that folks, you know, who sat behind desks came together and started saying, this is the way we're going to police now. But the good old fashioned police work, as you just talked about, getting out to the street, talking to the neighbors, knowing who they were. Listen, Jack Utsi, God bless his soul. Jack Utsi, everybody knew Jack Utsi. Jack Utsi was a senior detective to me. He worked with my dad, but when I came on, they embraced me in homicide. And the first place he took me when we went out for a homicide investigation, we went to the Coachman Inn. Come on, somebody.
Springfield in 15.
There you go. So I said, Jack, what we doing here, man? I said, yo, we got a job to do, man. He said, I thought, you know, Jack was old time. So, you know, they took their time. I was like, man, come on, what we doing here? But let me tell you something. Jack said, don't you want to solve this homicide? I said, yeah. We in there. He said, sit at the bar. I said, nah, man, I ain't sitting in no bar. I'm on duty, man. You know, he said, sit at the bar and I'm gonna find out who killed your victim.
And listen.
15 minutes, got the suspect, where he lived, who he was staying with, what color his underwear was, and what the whole situation was about.
Left to right hand. Exactly.
There you go. You know, so I am a strong proponent of community engagement with people, having that touch. People want that touch. And if you have that touch, they grant you access. Snitching, people don't understand where snitching came from. Our young people don't understand it. Snitching was to protect punks, folks that didn't want to do the weight themselves. They want everybody to do their dirty work, and they're going to tell everybody, don't tell on them. Why? Because it kept them in power. But meanwhile, you out there on the corner selling drugs and risking your life from not only the police, but the stick-up men and everybody else. And they talk about don't snitch. Man, it used to be a time our communities were safer because we all were our brother and sister's keeper. And the only way this thing is going to work now, that the brightest minds in law enforcement, the chiefs of police associations, and everybody else are going back to old-fashioned police work. I just want to drop this for a second because, and we got some questions from our viewers. We're going to get to you. We see a couple of questions there that the staff is going to speak to. But one of the things is when your police director, public safety director, sheriff, or whatever comes in, let me say this. They have to have three things that I say they need to look for. One is the objective is three objectives. One is to reduce crime. The second one is to improve the quality of life for the citizens. And number 3, you have to make sure that number 1 and 2 are part of number 3, that you're doing it all together.
Yes.
That's a simple formula for reducing crime and giving people the peace of mind that when they come in their house at night, it's not going to be broken into after a hard day's work. Their children can play out on the streets in the front yard and not get shot, or ran over by a stolen car. See, that makes a difference to me. Leaders have gotten over for the last decades with toting numbers, with stats. Oh, we got this. Listen, that means nothing if every time I come out of my house that I'm a victim of a crime or my neighbor's a victim of a crime. I don't give a damn about stats if I don't feel safe in my community.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? So please, anybody that comes up to the viewers, if you go to community meetings and people talking about stats, yeah, listen to the stats. Okay, but listen, we still don't feel safe. Something is amiss. Something is not being done, and I need you to do it. You understand? So, I mean, that's 3 things that you need to make sure in your community when you go to your community meeting and you talk to the police leadership or your officials. Those are the 3 things you need to make sure that is going on. And if it's not, make sure it happens. You have the power to do these things. I want to look at there were a couple of questions that came in. Hey, Charles Upshaw, he said, all stakeholders need to be involved. Elected officials, elected administration, police administration, frontline police officers, and the police union, outreach through targeted community programs for youth, seniors, and families. Yes, that is an ideal situation. But every time police administration, and I'm saying as a deputy director, when we want to do things, who gave us the most problem was the police union. The elected officials, they didn't really mind. They listen. They wanted to make sure that things in their community are going well, so they would go with it. Frontline police officers, everybody don't like change. You tell them you're doing something, like we do community walks. Why are we doing community walks? Why? Because it's part of good, effective policing.
Part of your job.
Right. It's part of your job. We're going to get you out of that car, walk the community so people can, as Steph said earlier, people can see you. Because when you took the job, or hopefully when you took the job, you came on there to make a change and a difference. All right. Mm-hmm. But the police unions were one of the people that we had to go back and forth with, fighting outreach programs, all of that stuff. That was good. Coffee with a cop, man. We did that. Folks didn't understand it. But I blame leadership when line officers don't understand what's coming forth. When a director or a chief puts out an order and line officers have a problem with it, it means that it wasn't properly explained or fully explained. Make the vision clear. Set the vision, make it clear so that your troops can be more effective in what you're trying to accomplish. All right, coffee with a cop. Oh, we got to go sit at Dunkin' Donuts. We're going to pay for people to have free coffee. No, sir. No, sir. No, ma'am. You're going to go engage the community. You're going to find out what's going on in your sector while you're sitting in your radio patrol car and you're riding past crime. You're riding past the very individuals that everybody's complaining about, who's committing all the crime there. And what you're doing is riding right back. Why? Because you don't have a relationship with the community. So you're going to do coffee on the cop as an officer, as a commander, and you're going to find out what's going on in your community. So when people say this, that, or that, you can have the right answers, especially when you get called before the director or the chief and they say, why is this still a problem in your community? Always, you know what I'm saying, Tony and Steph? Always sending more patrols is not the answer. Locking everyone. Yeah. I mean, going out and saying, okay, so that the director can go to a meeting and say, okay, well, we had 50 arrests in that area. Okay, let's break it down, director. What were the 50 arrests for? Was it for the problem that I brought to the table? No. You've been locking up people for old warrants.
Old warrants.
Come on, man. Stuff
parking tickets.
Come on, man. But see, in our community for too long, and listen, viewers, you getting it right from our mouth. You better take this information and run with it. These are the type of questions that you ask these people. Let's see the sheep. Show me the beef. What was that? Wendy's, McDonald's. What was that? They used to say, show me the beef. Show me the facts. That's not always the answer. And it's a cop-out. It's a cheapskate way of doing your job and just thinking that the residents are just going to sit there and be like, oh, okay, well, they made 50 arrests, so I should feel comfortable going. No, because the joker doing the crime is outside waiting for you.
What were those 50 arrests for? You know,
exactly.
A sweep, or they put them all together. They run the whole community. Warrants.
Come on.
And you may have anything from parking tickets to child support warrants, all kind of things. They just map everything together. Usually do it around holiday seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they've been working on a 6-month investigation.
Yes.
Sometimes it is, but 9 times out of 10, they put all those warrants together, grab who they grab, and that's it. Put it in the paper.
And you know what? You remember, I mean, now, Steph, you and Tony know, and I'm not going to throw any names out there because, I'm not going to say what agency, but we did a job together in Viper, right? All of our arrests were for what we were there for.
Right.
Other folks tried to do the same thing y'all did, right? It went left. So in order to make the numbers look successful, they started going out and locking up people, violating their rights, right? Violating their rights.
And added 30 more arrests to it.
And added 30 more arrests just so they can make the press and say that, hey, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. We did this and was successful. No, bro. We knew the deal. We actually sat back and laughed and said, look what they're doing. Look what they're doing.
Who that? Who is that?
Yeah. What, they don't sell drugs? Man, he don't sell drugs. So, but that's what they do. And residents, listen, man, we giving you the tea on protect and serve. You understand? We showing you the standard that we were held to, and it was effective. It worked.
And it was actually, that not gonna say the agency, but it was actually embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
Doing a little meeting that we all had, they had an individual who they stated they had a drug sale to. And I came out and told them they don't sell drugs. They're out there. They don't sell drugs. I said, well, show us the report that you have them doing it what we call a hand-to-hand. Never produced it. I'm still waiting on that report.
Right. I want to address Shay Coulter's comment for a second because he put something up here, and I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. He said Shay Coulter said our local force is overworked. He said, you sound like Mahatma Gandhi. That's not reality. You want residents to wait and protect the women and children. No, that's definitely not what we want. You can't protect yourself and your children from jokers who have guns and live a life of crime. No, that's not what we're saying at all. What we want you to do is what we want, and then what this show about tonight is about building a partnership and working with the community, cops, clergy, and community all working together, doing their respective job, because each component, as we talked about, each stakeholder has a unique ability. And as we go forward, understand this, what we're saying tonight. I was on a pastor's Zoom the other night, and we were talking about the state of the church being in COVID, and what it was they were saying, how are you going to do your ministry, right? How are you going to do your ministry? And the thing is that one of the guys came and said, listen, we partner with law enforcement. So what Che was talking about, that's a big misconception, because a lot of times, and I'm glad he brought that up, because that's what a lot of people think. They think like they'll say that, and what he's saying is true. We need to point that out, because the reason why I point it out is because a lot of people say, oh, you want us to do your job. No, we don't want you to do our job. As Shay Coulter said, the force is overworked. Why? It's overworked for the reasons we just said, for doing stuff that has nothing to do, because of stats and because of all that other stuff. You're deploying your resources at the wrong part of the city. Good point, Shay. Thank you for putting that up there. He said, will Essex crime go lower if more law abiders? I said, here we go. Man. Yo, he is hot tonight. He said, can you speak of the pros and cons of an armed community keeping it safe? Why are so many New Jersey state lawmakers anti-Second Amendment from your perspective? Okay, yes, let's get into this for a second. All right. I want each and every one of us to address his question because that's a very good question. What's your opinions?
I don't think so. First of all, 3 people here on the panel. Each of us see an armed robbery. Every one of us is going to react different. Mm-hmm. Everybody reacts to something different, a situation. Mm-hmm. I may see something that those other 2 don't see. I'm going to react different. I may draw my weapon, somebody might not. And it's a whole list of things that you're going through when you're in a confrontation. Mm-hmm. Armed confrontation situation, we've all been in them, and everybody reacts different. That's why the issue is right now, it comes back to training and the mental state or capacity.
Yes.
Just because a citizen is armed doesn't mean that they're going to be able to deal with the situation. Mm-hmm. Yes, they have a gun in their house. Somebody breaks in, they may freeze. They might overly protect themselves. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, that's a very good question.
Right.
But
excellent.
Even if you go back to a point of a perfect example that may seem kind of weird, but just think about it. If anybody ever been shocked by something, you react different. Mm-hmm. You know, you stick your hand or you touch something, you shock. You know it's going to shock you.
Right.
You may do it again. You know, everybody's different. Mm-hmm. But having a whole community that's armed, perpetrator comes into that community, they don't know it, something's going to go wrong.
Right.
You don't know then the type of weapon you have, the type of ammunition you have. And there's a lot of different, factors that go into that.
Yeah.
But is that the problem? I mean, we have it now. You have police that are armed, and look what's happening in our communities. Yeah. The police that are protecting us, they're not doing it. Or they're overly protecting somebody.
Yeah.
We have our black men and women getting killed and shot.
Right. If you miss somebody, if you start shooting at somebody and you miss,
where's that round going?
And it's just crazy. Do you have insurance? Not that it would help somebody that passed or whatever, but what about having insurance? It's really in order to have a gun, even license a gun. I'm telling you that it's a little stressful. Yeah. Because you got to make sure that you have it where nobody can get to it, that nobody accidentally that you don't accidentally, you
arm yourself with
my gun and shoot somebody or shoot yourself. Yeah. Having a gun is not, no big thing. And I get your question, but here you're going to try to protect your family and someone else. Then somebody else gonna get it because you're not properly trained. That's why they let you have guns in your residence, but you can't go out and walk around with them. So to have it in your residence, you just hoping that somebody not gonna come in there.
Yeah.
You may not never get to use it. It may get a whole bunch of dust and cat hair on it or whatever.
Yeah. So all right, I want to break it down just a little bit different because he's asking specifically, would crime and ethics go down if more residents lawfully were armed? Okay, so now the answer is no, I don't think so. One, a lot of crime in Essex County is organized crime. The serious crime is we have a problem with organized, not meaning like the mobster type crime. I mean, these young gangs, these narcotic organizations, they're very organized. As police officers, we try to steer away from dealing with situations when we're by ourselves. We try not to engage in off-duty incidents. You know what? If I was out there on the road and I saw something going down, unless someone's life was being threatened, that's the last resort. I'm going to call it in. If I saw something like a car or 4 individuals in a car, it's not for me to try to take them down by myself, but to wait for the appropriate time. As Stephanie said, as Tony said, our training will teach us when that moment is available. You just don't, because you got a gun, pull it out because you don't know if the person, even now as a retired officer, I think about that. I said, okay, if I respond to this, what's the new tactics out here? Is there going to be a guy behind me that's going to walk up behind me and blow my head off? Is it someone in another secondary car? Tony, we talk about this on active shooter, secondary incidents. where we respond to the first incident, but yet someone's in the
somebody's waiting
for the second incident to really make sure he's waiting for the police to respond. So now they know that. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Brazil. In Brazil, they were going up robbing folks on motorcycles. So what I saw in Brazil, what they're doing now is that when they rob you on a motorcycle, first thing they do is tell you, put your hands up on your head, right? And then they pull your jacket up. The reason why they pull your jacket up is because they know most people carry guns. They want to see if you got a gun. They're going to take the gun now away from you, disarm you, and then they're still going to take your motorcycle or your property, or they're going to rob you, or they're going to shoot you, or they're going to kill you. But what they do is they become smart. And unless you're getting this constant training that police officers get, I don't recommend that armed citizens be out on the streets trying to protect themselves. Now, in your house is a different scenario altogether because you control that a little bit more. And the thing is, like Tony was saying, and Steph was saying the same thing, as retired officers, we have to still maintain insurance as retired officers, because if we shoot someone who comes in our house and goes through that wall or something and kills somebody else, or goes through a window and kills somebody innocent, we're still liable. Anytime that round leaves that gun, you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. So I would go lean toward more home self-defense, protecting your property, protecting your home, and even with that, making sure you get the required training. Keep watching Protect and Serve, because we're putting something together like that for homeowners. We had a show a couple episodes back about home gun ownership, and some of the things that we were talking about was the use of what type of ammunition in the home. There's certain ammunition you use in the home for your weapons there. And like I said, going out on the street as retired officers, let me tell you, man, we even off duty, we used to just, we call, we still had an obligation. So we would follow the individual or whatever, but actually engaging someone is a very dangerous situation. And you have to stay sharp. You got to stay sharp. You have to be able to respond quickly. And that the reason why officers survive these type of actions is because we're constantly going to the range, we're training, we're going to classes. If that's not a part of your normal day activity, and you don't have the time to dedicate to doing that, then I would really caution against, having armed citizens. But that's not up to me. That's not up to us. That's the legislatures. Now, the legislatures in the state of New Jersey, as far as the Second Amendment, let me tell you something. New Jersey is one of the hardest states to get concealed carry. They are, even for retired police officers who are authorized to carry under HR 17 with the federal government. There's an active case going on right now that the FOP the national FOP is suing the state of New Jersey because they feel that New Jersey is violating the rights of citizens, police officers, when federal law says that officers who are retired, who met the standard and the qualifications and are eligible to carry a weapon, are not being allowed to carry the weapon because they have to go through state police in order to get what they call RPO permit. So I hope we answered that question for you, Shay. And we want to show a video about partnering, because it's really important that we partner. I want to show you the effects of it. Let's roll the Newark police video, if we can have the producers show that at this time.
On a rainy, cleansing night when crime typically is low in Newark, Lieutenant Wilbur Cole and Pastor Pablo Pizarro take NJTV News on a ride-along. Pastor Pablo has ventured into the field with the police at least 30 times and often found the public welcoming a member of the clergy.
When they see, hey, that's my pastor. I seen him on Sunday behind the pulpit, but now he's in uniform, or he's riding next to so-and-so who actually was running after me, and then we say, no, he's cool, he's with us. And they say, all right, pastor. So a lot of the grandmas like that, the uncles and different people in the community. And so now you're not getting that hesitation, like, I don't talk to cops.
The city's hope is the public seeing cops and clergy together will build ties and trust between communities and a department under the microscope of a federal monitor for reform.
Here go one of our shooting protocols.
This was the scene of a shooting this summer, so why, months later, are officers so visible here?
Criminals might be thinking about any type of retaliation. This is one way to stem that.
Lieutenant Cole, 23 plus years in the force, is counting down almost to the second when he'll retire. He's got second thoughts, though.
Because the department is really going through a metamorphosis. and it's a good thing too. It's a beautiful thing. You know, we're partnering with a lot of the community organizations, especially with you know, our clergy. We reinstitute a lot of our block watches so we can get, you know, more in tune with the community, you know, and have the community get more in tune with the community as well. You know, and it's a way that we build that trust.
Up the street from headquarters, King's Family Restaurant. Families eating dinner. The lieutenant does his meet and greet. At this table, Newark's old guard talks about how Newark is different than other cities.
You know, we don't go out shooting our officers. You know, our officers put their life on the line, and they all grew up in our community. See how that lieutenant came over and shook us? That's what it's about.
He's one of us.
And by the same token, you said we don't go and shoot our officers, nor do they go out and shoot us.
In the North Ward of the Lombardi Community Center in Pastor Pablo's neighborhood, the steps and sounds of salsa fill a huge room the city has donated. Next door, the Puerto Rican Day Parade nonprofit's headquarters, and an uber-energetic president talks about policing today.
And one thing when it comes to the Newark police is that it gives now a new feeling that the police department is caring. You know, like it's like before it was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, there goes a crime going. Now you could see it. Like I sit here in our office here and I see the cars flying back and forth. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want.
Today, the federal monitoring team, led by former state attorney general Peter Harvey, begins surveying Newark residents, asking them what they think of the Newark Police Department.
I think what we really hope for is to just get a feel for what people on the ground, people from the actual community are thinking. Because right now we have, the monitoring team's thoughts, we have the Newark Police Department's thoughts, we have advocacy organizations' thoughts. But I think the most important thing is that the consent decree and the reforms are going to affect the community. Once a monitoring team leaves, we need to know what the community who's left with kind of the police department in the state it is actually experiencing. And so I think that's what's so important about this baseline.
The Federal Monitor has also surveyed Newark police officers to capture their thoughts about the city they serve, their willingness to reform, and the knowledge of the laws they enforce and that govern them as well. In Newark, Michael Hill, NJTV News.
Yeah. Hey, very good piece.
On point.
On point, because that's what you needed. And I just want to jump to I think it was Nicole Porter. She put up a question. She asked the question. She said, "Would the quality of life be better if officers were required to live where they work?" Nicole, listen, that's a question of debate that has been going on. A lot of your officers. My dad was an officer. I was an officer that lived in the same county. My father lived in the same city. It has its pros and cons. One person can't make the difference, but I think that there are some requirements that require departments for the officers' first couple of years. They have to live in this jurisdiction that they're going to work in. But there has been court cases that said that officers aren't mandated after that initial requirement. Because I think it's during their probation step. You on the candidate hiring committee, right? So how does that work with the mandate that they have to be within the city? I know Newark at one time had that. How did that work?
Have to, and when you're coming on a job, you have to be a resident. Once you graduate from the police academy, years ago, you had to stay within a city, live in the city for at least a year. And then after that, you can move out. I think now they're extending it. But they also offer they offer officers like the Cop Next Door program. They offer them incentives in order to stay in the city, though.
Right. I mean, it's a good thing. The only thing is, the poor officer that lives in your community, man. People know that he's a cop. They're gonna be knocking on his door. He never get any rest. That was the thing in our home. In our family. They would come knocking on the door. Hey, your dad here? Someone broke in my car. Hey, your dad here? This is going on. So
I'm calling police.
Yeah, but he was the police. So
I know, but they do that to me now. I'm like, why are you calling me?
So a lot of cops, they keep it quiet when they're in the neighborhood because when they come home after messing with that mess of a job, they just want to be left alone. So a lot of them move out because they run into folks that they lock up. They run into folks that they neighbors that they lock up. It can cause some issues. But yes, the quality of life, I believe, if they don't live there, what we're proposing tonight, if we got into doing that more often, like coming together, as we saw in the video, Pastor Pablo, I'm not sure where he lives at, but I know he pastors in Newark. He has a connection in Newark. He has his finger on the pulse in Newark, and a lot of his congregants see him with the police, and it makes a difference. One of the things that I picked up at one of the chiefs of police conferences was that, and I've always said it before I even heard it, I said, listen, we can't arrest everybody. You can't arrest everybody, and you surely can't kill all these folks, because they're bad. You can't get into shootouts with these folks. You can't be shooting people just because they committed an infraction of the law. I'm so tired of hearing it. Even just now, recently there was another black male that was killed down, I think, in one of the towns. I'm not sure what state it was, but he was killed. He was trying to defuse the situation. Responding officers came there, and they shot and killed him. I'm like, come on, man. How's it go? How do you get from getting to the scene and that person becoming such a threat that you have to pull your gun out and shoot? When I came on the job, that wasn't the fear that folks had. People were afraid of me because they knew, you catch hands before you catch a bullet. So, and you wanted to get that before, especially when I was a kid. I'm like, no, beat me. Don't lock me up. Don't call. No, do what you got to do. Don't tell my dad. Don't bring me down to the precinct. Do it. Put your foot up my butt. I don't care. I'm not going to say nothing. But I never had a fear of being shot by the police. So the reason why I think that, my personal opinion, that police officers responded, because they're not connected to the community, as we said at the beginning of the show. It's like you're not connected. All you do is ride around, and you because of the things that we need to do as far as police reform and reallocating, they call it the funding or reallocating, is the reason why there's so many shootings and police brutality cases. Because I think that in Newark, what was key in that video, Steph, was that the old guard, and Murad Muhammad, that's the boxing promoter. I remember him growing up. But the old guard, I remember a lot of those old guys, and they were like, listen, we don't shoot at the cops. And believe me, they came up in a time where they could shoot at the cops, all right? But they don't shoot the cops. And they said, and by the same token, our cops aren't shooting at us. Now, of course, you have isolated incidents, but as a whole, I was very impressed with the Newark Police Department, how they handle situations with police shootings. And it wasn't the mess that's going on around the country. And I believe that since 2014, when we started instituting community walks and going out in the community talking to folks, that was the result of it. That's why it happened. So partnering with the community, with the police, with clergy. Listen, for those of you who have businesses, okay, listen to this. Those of you who have businesses, there are certain businesses or services that you could commit to or you can provide to the police department, right? That will help them. If you're a psychologist or you have some type of mental health business, let me tell you something. We have talked about this in police leadership classes about providing service for victims, for communities who are traumatized. Traumatized by what? Shootings, police shootings, murders. Listen, you don't have to be a first responder to suffer from PTSD. John and Jane Q. Citizen, if you wake up and you're seeing in your community people shooting folks all the time, yes, you're going to suffer from some type of PTSD. Believe it or not, you're going to have nightmares. You're going to be afraid to go to the store. You're going to be afraid to let your children go out there. That's a problem. That's something that we have to address and get help for, because you don't want to live your life in fear. You don't want to become a hermit and stay inside. That's just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
Right on point with that. It's like before you go out, people now in certain areas, they go out, they look outside the window before they go out. step outside and looking up and down the street because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Anybody's fighting or, you know, shooting. You shouldn't have to go through that. You want to go outside, sit on the front porch, go out. They don't even want to sit on the front porch in some neighborhoods because of the crime. Where they're being targeted, basically. You know, shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Like we have to come together for, you know, the best good of the community, you know, basically. And as we said earlier, the police have to get involved with the community, get involved with the youth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talked to some of the SRO, you know, school safety officers in the schools, and I tell them, get to know the students. They're going to be your citizens when they get older.
That's right.
Get to know them now. You'll build a relationship with them now.
That's right.
That's the best way to do it.
They're going to be making decisions for you too. So, you know, get them right.
Exactly.
That's right.
You know what? Even like, not just the kids, the older people too. Now we have a big LGBTQ community, and nobody's really talking to them. And you know, what's the issue when you approach them? What do you say, sir, ma'am, or you know, like with transgender? What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to dialogue. Now, Captain Douglas did it. He did it, and not only did he have training he had training with his officers and the community together with the people from the LGBT agency that's down on Halsey Street.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was awesome because I was there. You know, he's invited us, and then he did another one that was really good on domestic violence. And it's not, he just had it for his officers. The officers and the community, so they were able to dialogue with each other and you know, try to figure out, you know, how to do this, what should we do with this, and the officers was even asking community questions. So that I think that worked really well.
Yeah, listen, but Steph, a lot of people might not know who Captain Douglas is. Why don't you just tell them who Captain Douglas is?
Oh, yeah. Captain Douglas been around for a while. He's the tall guy you see out there. There's always either giving kids stuff or, you know, having a little thing. He got us dressing up like bunny rabbits and chickens and wooden soldiers. And you don't mind doing that for him because I mean, when I say he's out there, he is out there. He's mingling. He was at the 6th precinct, and I think they moved him over to the 5th.
Okay.
So, you know, then you know what that's going to do? That's going to bring the 6th precinct and then the 5th precinct community together also, you know, even with the officers, because you're going to find some good. You're going to follow.
Yeah, your two biggest districts that have the highest crime in the city, the 5th precinct and the 6th precinct, the West and the South. You know, so, you know, I mean, he does a great work. I was talking to someone yesterday. We were talking about another entirely different matter, and he mentioned to me about Captain Douglas and Detective Toy Muhammad, how they helped the young man out who didn't have a registered car, and the impact it had on not only the young man but the family, because the family said, "Listen, cops don't do this." I said, "Yes, they do." I said, "Cops who love their job and really have a heart for the people, this is what they do. You just don't hear about it." And
Exactly.
you know, and it should be more recognition, because the things that people are recognized for is shootouts and this many arrests. And I think that's so biased. I think there's so many good officers who should be recognized for little deeds like this, who make protecting and serving more honorable. It makes it more, people can say, yeah, no, they're protecting and they're serving me. Like you said, they do. You know how much joy it does when you dress up. Listen, I saw you in the wooden soldiers. I was like, oh man, I felt like Christmas. I was like, yeah, you know.
Oh, the wooden soldier?
Yeah, the wooden soldier, because I remember as a young kid, I used to watch March of the Wooden Soldier. I said, oh, look, she's a wooden soldier, you know, and the Nutcracker. So, I mean, but that makes a difference. And then guess what? You're a police officer. It's the human touch of policing. It's the human touch of policing. Charles Upshaw, he said something. He said youth programs and contacts with youth are critical. The younger you start, the better. Listen, policing, we had to adapt that concept. The gangs do it. Revolutionists do it. You don't see old people in revolutions. You see young people. And why police officers, instead of walking or riding around, not listening, not valuing them, that's the problem. All right, we have a video from Chicago. If the producer would put that on, let's look at this one here because it's very interesting from Chicago area.
The relationship between Chicago youth and police took center stage today at the University of Chicago Law School.
For 3 years, the law school has been working with children to understand how their interactions with law enforcement shape their behavior. Natalie Bomke joins us with what the law school has found.
Jeff and Dawn, the findings are being presented today and tomorrow in a 2-day youth police conference. The school hopes to share the information they've collected with police. As you know, it's a complicated issue.
They have all the power and they can do what they want and they can get away with it.
The University of Chicago Law School's Police Accountability Clinic asked Chicago kids to explain their interactions with police.
You know, they'll pull up, you know, get on the car, you know, or get on the wall, you know, spread your legs, put your hands up, you know, put your hands on the gate, don't move, you know, searching my pockets, you know.
How often does that happen?
Pretty much every time I go outside.
This video was shared today at a first-of-its-kind community conference. It's providing an opportunity for dialogue between those who have studied police interactions, those who have experienced them, and law enforcement.
The system we have right now, where youth don't trust police and police don't trust black youth, is not working, and we're trying to find a way to make it work.
Tatiana Holloman is a senior at Hyde Park Academy. She had a message for the police.
You're stopping the wrong people still, and you need to be more involved in the communities. And the more you mistreat people, it takes away from our dignity. And, you know, remember, we are human, too.
Retired Denver police captain Tracy Kesey heard Tatiana's message loud and clear.
The officer interaction with community during non-emergency situations is key. It's often a time where that first impression is made. You heard a lot of that in here too about I've never been in trouble, but the officer was extremely rude to me and treated me like I was a suspect. Those interactions matter in how citizens view law enforcement and the larger criminal justice.
So what's next? Well, tomorrow from 9 to 4, there are additional panel discussions with police at the University of Chicago Law School. They are open to the public. From there, the findings will be compiled and then presented to law enforcement nationwide.
So even if they can't be there, everyone will get the message.
Exactly.
All right, Natalie, thanks. It's the
Wow. That's it right there. I mean, and you know, from the youth, I mean, what touched me about that video is hearing the youth speak, because it's very powerful. Their perception is very powerful, and as a law enforcement executive, it's much needed. You know, you have to hear that in order to properly run your police department, or you know, you have, if you're not listening to the youth. We have a saying in the church that if you go to a church and they don't have any young people in there, it's a dying church. It's a dying church. You know, youth are going, as Steffi said, it's your future leaders. They're going to shape. Listen, they're shaping policing right now, moving into 2021. And the fact of the matter is, what touched my heart or really upset me this week was how they treated the designer from Versace, the young brother from Versace out in Beverly Hills, because he was carrying a big Versace bag. Okay, you say that you stopped him because he jaywalked. Okay, fine. How many cops do you need to write a jaywalking ticket? I mean, come on, that was nothing more than racial profiling. Let's just be real. We've been on the job long enough. We got about
jaywalking ticket.
Come on. I mean, all right, sir.
And that goes back. That's still on the books. Jaywalking.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Now, granted, they were saying they had an operation that they did jaywalking, but clearly, if you have 6 officers respond for one guy who supposedly jaywalked, you know that's not about jaywalking. And they didn't issue him a ticket for jaywalking. So they go, you know what I'm saying? So come on. And that's what the youth are saying. They're saying, listen, you treating me inhumane. You're treating me this because basically because of the color of my skin. And when they asked that young brother, how many times does it happen? He said, every time I go outside. Who wants to live like that? So community, listen to what we're saying, viewers. You need to partner. You need to listen. There are officers inside that want to help you, that want to get back to the old, that want to change the world, as we said at the beginning of the show. which was the reason we all came on the job. We all have our Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman capes, and we want to do that thing. We want to do that type of work. And in partnering with you, if you have some type of service or some thought process or a company that does, how police can better act with community. Let me tell you something. Not only can you partner with them, but your company can also be paid through grants, etc. Now, ShotSpotter. Who wants to tell the viewers what ShotSpotter is? Well, Steph, come on. You used to tell me all the time. You call me up and tell me all the time.
It's some type of it's not like a camera. It picks up the sound of where where there's shootings, and it can basically let you know where the area where the shooting is, where they hear the shots, and they'll tell you about how many rounds,
how many shots,
that you can hear. Because I remember when I was still working, it was like a big shootout, maybe about 18 rounds. Not only did you can hear the shots, you can kind of distinguish if it was one or two weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Then they must have been hitting something, because you heard that ping, ping, like it was ricocheting off of something.
Automatic weapon or
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So that was a good thing. I think the ShotSpotter thing is good, but you can't have it on every corner. Or I guess they put it up maybe in the most areas where it's too many shots, like where you used to live at on 19th Street.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know.
Personal one.
No. So the reason why I mention that is because there was a pastor actually at church that what their church did was, based upon the input from the community, they obtained a grant that helped the police department on where to put ShotSpotter, and also to conduct studies and the effectiveness of it. And this is something that the community came together with. Not only did they get access to the police and to this program, but they actually got paid. They made job. They had a grant. They got a grant. And let me tell you this: if you're thinking about partnering with the police department as far as grants go, don't despise the small grants, the $5,000 and $10,000 grants. Everybody look for a big grant. I'll take 10 $5,000 grants or 10 $10,000 grants and work it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you have to do. So you might have a unique ability or specialty or some type of service that the police department might be in need of. And this is the perfect time, because in the time of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and defunding the police, this is an opportunity to bring about real change. This is the time to do it. This is the time you need to speak up and be heard and be seen, because I believe that policing moving forward will forever be changed moving into 2021. I really believe that. So, listen, we're about to wind down, but before we go to final thoughts, please continue to share this video, this session with folks. DM me, instant message me, us, if you have any questions or concerns. Let's do this. There are things that are happening daily. People are making headway as far as partnering with different police departments throughout the entire United States. This is world changing right now. What we've seen, the world is watching the United States right now. They're looking for change in policing. So, make sure you look into it for your local department. Make sure you push your community leaders, your elected officials, to adopt this type of thinking and move away from the type of thinking that got us in the trouble that we're in right now. We have to change. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is insanity. And I don't believe that any of us or any of you are insane. If you were, you wouldn't be watching this show. Before I turn it over to my experts, Sergeant Yelverton, who was on the show last week, he said the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, is a good source for law enforcement grants. You need to look that up, see what type of grants are there for law. And listen, tell the police department, listen, we want you to apply for this grant. This is what we want in our community. They are there to protect you and service you. That's what we're trying to tell you. So make sure you go there. Thank you, Sergeant Yebbleton, for that information. The Bureau of Justice Assistance. Look on there for grants. Get a group together. Put some grants there. And Charles Upshaw said, John, okay, yes, we'll do. We'll do. All right, we'll call you, Charles.
Community groups can get grants too.
Yeah, community grant and can assist in law enforcement. Listen, it's about law enforcement is about the community. The strength is the community, you know. But you can change the community. I mean, you can change law enforcement and steer it by your involvement. You have to be involved. All right. You have to listen, and you have to, you know, it's a give and take. And you can make the best. Listen, suburban towns don't have these issues. Why? Because they're people engaged and they work together. I see it. I do every day. I go to these different townships where we have facilities at, and we don't have the issues that we have in the inner cities. And it's not only because of being black. It's because there are issues. There are certain issues pertaining around the country against that's happening with the officers' involvement with black people. But there's also Jews. There's also Chinese. But guess what? The difference is they come together and they unite and they make change. And we have to do that in our community. Okay. So listen, Tony and Steph, who wants to take it? We go our last thoughts before we close out.
Okay. All right. I got some things I could say, my 2 cents, but I'm gonna try to get me about 3 more cents for next week and just put a nickel's worth in. So the only thing I got to say tonight is just vote and watch the debate.
Yes, definitely. Voting is 27 days out. Please, your vote counts. We need you to do what you have to do. We need you to vote. We need you to engage the process. All right. If you don't like what's going on and you don't vote, you just voted for what you don't like. So make sure you get out there and vote. All right. Tone.
Just continue the teamwork, working together for the good of your neighborhoods and communities, and stay alert, stay alive, and stay healthy.
That's it. Hey, listen, that's it. That's what it is in a nutshell. I don't have much to say. I think I talked enough today, man. I enjoyed the conversation from the comments from our viewers, watching the videos. Listen, good jobs. Thanks, Steph, for those videos. They were awesome. And the conversation. Listen, I just believe, I honestly believe that in law enforcement. It's in my blood. My father, second generation. I'm a second generation police officer. I believe in law enforcement. I believe that the art of protecting and serving is calling out to those of us who have left the profession and are still engaged in the profession to serve our citizens. We want to make sure we create great honor in protecting you and serving you and providing that type of service to you. That's why we do it. That's why we've done it. And that's why we're still involved. We're not getting paid to do this show. This is all because we love you and we want to make sure that you have a safer community by the information that we give you. So listen, I'm John Arnold from Protect and Serve. Thank you for tuning in. Thank my expert commentators again, Steffi Treadwell, Anthony Cox. We'll see you next week, same time, 6 o'clock Wednesday here on Facebook Live, New Jersey Urban Crime Foundation. Take care. Have a good night. Be safe.